It is now my pleasure to invite one of the most creative and intelligent young men that I have met, and Simon Hedley. Please, will you present Leadership? Thank you.
Small intro from Neslin there. I'm going to ask your gentle listening. I'm not a public speaker, I'm not a scientist, a trainer, I'm a Simon, whatever that may be. I've had the great privilege to know some of you for a very long time, directly and indirectly, and some of you for a few minutes and hours. What I'm here to do today is stand for Neslin and what we see as possible for the future. And you asked me a great question, Martin, just, what is this about? And people know what they're doing here. I don't actually know. The web was a website, it did say things, but does anybody know why you're here? We haven't really asked today, have we? Who wants to say why you're here today? Lack of hands in the room. How many of you are leaders? If you're a leader, put your hand up. Stand up for me if you're a leader. We're not in America, it's okay. Won't do high fives, but just, right? So I would suggest everybody here is a leader, and I know that's why you're here. We're here from my perspective to help talk about the future of leadership and how to shape yourself as a leader in whatever context. Whether that's for yourself as an individual, because there is more to life than money, whether it's in the business setting, in the social setting, those, unfortunately, that work in government have gone back to that activity. There is a wider shift happening now for humankind and what's possible, which I'd like to touch on probably at the end of what I share, if that's okay. Does that sound reasonable? Okay? You're all very quiet, okay. Everybody okay? Like, you had a long day today? Okay. Okay. And I have prepared some slides. And there are 3 things I could do now. How many things? 3 things. It's a joke for my little students and friends. I can give the talk I prepared, I can just talk from the heart, or I can go very serious in business with you. Any preferences? Oh dear. Right. I might come back to this after there's some fun. And I've been very naughty because if I don't stand here, you can't hear me, you see. I'm very, very thankful to a lot of people in the room, and many of which you'll never even know about. The fact I'm talking on stage has me I was present to what you shared, and Martin and other people. And when I was 19, I chose not to go into certain professions because of the risk of talking in public. And oh dear, I'm talking in public again. True? Hannah met me talking at home house. And it's not about, yeah, I'm talking in public, but literally, I'd spent my entire conditioning as a child being told, shut up. I was a top scholar at Tunbridge School. I was around very smart people. And in the UK, we don't like smart people, or academically smart people. It's the tall poppy syndrome in Australia, I think you call it. So fundamentally, the whole system's messed up. There are some amazing people I've now come aware of, like Sir Ken Robinson, hopefully you've all seen his TED Talks, that touch on this. But the truth of it is, society and the environment is, to be blunt, I need a better word than as in screwed, is that okay? It is not suboptimal, to quote my partner. And I've been very privileged to work with exceptional, successful leaders, and every type. Your Enron types that you mentioned, I was at Morgan Stanley working with the guy that was basically responsible for the screw-up. And he wasn't really taking ownership of it, it's like that was somebody else's fault. I worked as an auditor, I worked in investment management. I'm also the son of a mother who comes from Chesterfield, up in North, and she caught polio when she was 4 years old, at a time when vaccines were available. So just think that one through. We had a vaccine available in the UK and it wasn't delivered. Okay? Now somebody, I'm not judging, I've matured enough as an emotional intelligence, it's a bit of me still upset, right? Part of the science emotional conversation rather than the boring accountant, Simon. But somebody had to make a choice of, do I hand out that vaccine or not? How many of you watch House of Cards? I have a little indulgence on Netflix, just as me. Okay, good, okay. If you haven't watched it, please promise me, watch Netflix, amazing, right? From all these kind of leadership. And in that show, I won't spoil it for you, he has to make a choice. For me, he made a choice, and that's the leader. There are other movies out there like The Butler. Many of you seen The Butler? Yeah. And that had me in tears. I went in with a friend that helped produce it, expecting nothing. And I was following along, and I suddenly got present to stuff my mum had gone through as a GP and GP trainer in the NHS with disabilities, with all the thoughts and opinions we bring to our relationships. Even the fact of communication, like I'm bowled away by Debbie. I only got to meet Debbie, Baroness Debbie Stedman-Scott, I apologise. I've had the privilege to know her as Debbie, thanks to Neslin. And when you hear the eloquence and the clarity, that's not me. I'm not the speaker, and yet communication, this fundamental of sharing ideas, sharing values, is what it's all about. I'll be transparent. I'm not autistic, but on that scale, I'm weird up here. Okay, you seen Rain Man? He's not that smart. Okay, it's really confusing. Jerry, you know me a little bit, right? I see stuff that others don't even know matters. I've even put stuff in the room for you in case I got excited later on. How many of you have seen the stuff on the tables? You saw those? Did you see the Egyptian pyramids? They're not on every table. There's different things on different tables. Did you see the light bulbs? I've put stuff, even somebody has a rubber duck. This is my off-the-wall speech. I like being organised, Nestle. Chop the duck. Chop. Now, Hannah's been around me for a couple of years, true? Hannah got me in 3 minutes based on values. She was trying to pitch network marketing nonsense or talk on entrepreneurship. It wasn't what she was doing, but she sort of, can you help me with this? And I went, what do you really want? She went, to feed kids. I went, I'm in. She had no idea that I'd been working on Every Mouth Fed for over 20 years. So that value, that real connection is what got me. And I this morning teased you guys and said, what's the rubber duck got to do with leadership? This is a new one for you. You can use it if you like. It's good. Credits. Or not. I could. I'm still bowled away, by the way, because I didn't really know Martin, still don't know him as a friend. But I had the first, and this is interesting, if I tell you something, some of you have signed our NDAs and get confidentiality, get context. She's gone now, right? But context is everything. So what I'm going to share with you is not to belittle something. I'm going to share a very honest story, but with just in the frame of like Chatham House rules. I mean, it's for you guys, not for outside. Is that fair enough? Okay. So when I left banking with money in the bank, having worked really, really, really stupidly hard for a long time, not billions, but enough to be okay, I thought, I want to go into business. I'm going to hire a business coach. Good move, right? Big mistake. Because that business coach had been trained to coach and lead. However, he wasn't an entrepreneur. He hadn't gone through it. He hadn't been on the journey. He wasn't a wise person. He was going through basically a very successful billion-dollar franchise system. And he found your materials. I came across it. He went, do this test. It was useful. But it wasn't the test. The problem was the guy that, like 2 years later, he asked me to mentor him and manage his company. It's great, but I made the error. And that's a little bit like it points at the duck. Because most of us follow the yellow duck. If you saw this and I went, to get to success, follow the duck down the river, the duck's then leading you down a freaking river. That's generally what happens. Most of what we're up to in life right now is non-predictable. I'm a master, seriously, I have 3 degrees in mathematics, Latin and Greek for A-levels and a master degree. I'm a science guy. Your future is unpredictable. We don't live like that. Even this conversation, until about 10 minutes ago, sat there, I had a very clear thing I was going through. I wrote this is what I was doing, and then you make a choice. Those unpredictable moments of Debbie saying what she said and you being you and other bits and pieces, even our challenging leadership conversation earlier with one of your clients and partners, right? All these micro bits make up what happens. But that's not how we live and think. It's really not how we live and think. And most so-called leaders think they know what's happening. They think they know what's coming. I'm in a really awkward position, personally, and you know me quite well, some of you, because I'm privileged to work with people who are working on global change projects. Some, they might be literally a homeless person, and some scarily wealthy and connected people who I swear will bring things out in the next 12 months that you will see on TV. And I can't tell you, because I've signed NDAs. Really annoying. Really, really annoying, because it's really exciting. And I'm literally the 2-year-old kid who just wants to share all the fun stuff. My hopefully new friend there, who's drawing away some stuff. By the way, what they're doing is visualizing the conversations. We had an interchange by email, right? And that the whole story, this little secret, but true story, laughing now. I was not in tears, but I was upset. Before, it was literally, had I been Sir Richard Branson sending exactly the same words, a different response. Just think that one through, right? Same person says on an email, hello Martin, like what your book, can I interview you? And it's a yes or no based on your perception of who you think is doing it. We have a rule in our membership of assume nothing and confirm everything. Sounds simple. Doesn't mean be cynical, just don't make frickin' assumptions. But we all do. Like, I was born with a different name than I now have. Not only dodgy reasons, just somebody died in my family. Whole different story. Very, very, very smart man. And you have iPhones in the room, smartphones. That's my dad's research. But he died working for the CGB, nuclear power stations. But that research ripples on. I've had the privilege of having a maths teacher, Mr. Burden, who saw something in me and asked me to do something against everything I wanted and had me go play cricket. That one thing opened up stuff. These little small steps is what, for me, leadership is. And unfortunately, most people have read a book on leadership or they go and do a thing, but they're not coming from here. And we're also really lucky. The big thing that I want to be present to is we have time and space to think about this stuff. I've got friends that don't. And it's infuriating, like mind-bogglingly infuriating. Some very wealthy people, they're really busy. You have wealthy, busy friends? They're always busy, right? It's like, take a day off. No. What's it about? What's the agenda? They have no space to think and really get present. And I've had scares of my own health and other people, and I do interesting work on a whole scale. This may misland, so just bear with me. It's a relevant story, I think. 3 years ago, walking through a park near my house, I meet somebody, and I thought, he's cute, hello, want a coffee? Started a conversation. Turned out, she had a really messed up childhood, she was trying to get into movie making, and one of the people, Debbie, helped. I didn't know Debbie back then. She's living in a council estate, I swear to God, random meeting, over here, 20 minutes later, I can see where she lived from my kitchen. So I have a nice flat in London, I can see her council house from my kitchen. Didn't know that. She'd been there my entire time I'd lived there for 15 years. So that was also a bit weird, but fun. We started talking, as you do, little chats to people, and you have conversations. I'm not technically a psychologist, but I've been trained in interesting stuff. Let's put it that way. I know McKenna and Bandler and people, and I've had friends promote Paul and other people. But I'm not into it for that. There's people connection. Fundamentally, we talk. That's what it's always about. We're a human species. We live in conversation. And I'm talking to her for a while, and as normally on the path of anybody going through transformations, you hit a teenager phase of going, I'm not playing. True. We I don't want to learn. There's a night every month or so we have little conversations like this. I don't want to do this. I do this. I'm joking, but you know what I mean. You're graceful all the time. But it's the nature of it, right? You grow, you get stretched. It's the nature of, I'm a northerner. We have loud voices. We talk. We move things. I'm being very calm and British now, my little southern Tunbridge Wells voice from Royal Tunbridge Wells. Anyway, she vanished. And I mean vanished. Like 1 minute we're doing coaching sessions regularly and chatting, no paying, just free work, and think of it as philanthropy, think of it as just being human. She came back 2 years later on a Sunday morning at 10 a.m. with a knock on the phone, that ring on the thing, and me going, this is a bit weird. Hello, what do you want? And literally, she was dressed in the pajamas, went down, stupidly in some ways, because this is somebody who was, I think Debbie describes him as a violent potential. Is that the one? You know, somebody who has a propensity to kill people. You know, not really, but anybody does. Truthfully, we all do in this room. We all pretend we don't. But upset, Mother Bear kicks in. And she's 24, 25, went downstairs, and from every logical bit, you'd say, this person is nightmare, don't go talk to them. She'd got herself in this situation. She'd got herself into a degree course, was really proud. The government grant was 3 weeks late coming through. The helpful social worker had said, well, just talk to me on Monday. She had no heating, no food. Nuts. And it wasn't even she was begging. The government and other people and other grants she'd got for her schooling just was late. Stuff goes wrong. Have had any banking mess-ups here? I used to be in banking. Terrible stuff. Fraud protection stuff kicks in and stops things. So she was owed the money, hadn't got it, and for the sake of 20 quid, hadn't had heating or food for 3 days, and was suicidal. She rings 999 before she comes to see me. You know what they say? Do you have any knives in your hands? If you don't, go to the hospital. So the advice from 999 was just walk to A&E. Not judging, it's all okay. But in that conversation, you realise how much you miss. We talked it through. I lent her 20 quid. I gave her some money. I bought her a coffee. We talked. She gets back on track. December happens. Christmas happens. This is literally months ago. And I'm sitting there on this roller coaster of emotions we all kicking because I'm still a 2-year-old in a big man's body learning to be human, whatever that may be, and lead life. And she rang me in tears because somebody she's been helping had just had her boyfriend shot over nothing. a row. And these people who are 17, 18, 21-year-old literally resort to violence. Their way of dealing with the guy going, ha ha, I'm going out with your girlfriend, the guy goes in, comes out, shoots her. So she's now moving areas for police safety, the mums are blaming people, not my job. All that stuff is the invisible that's going on in billions of people's conversations around the world right now. And I know there aren't enough people who are trained. I had the great privilege to work with people like Marissa Peer, you know Marissa? And other people who are exceptional at their fields, who are the trained psychotherapists and different people. We had an interesting conversation 3 years ago. And what we looked at was, look, I know I have flaws, but most people don't know they have flaws. Most leaders have read the book that says, I've got to be like this. I've done my training, I've done my stuff. Even like friends in special forces that I'm not supposed to talk about. But they're exceptional people, but they're human. And we generally now are in a space where there's an opportunity to inquire into shaping a new leadership, not for today, but for the future we're moving into. We live in a world where a message from any one of you could film something for 2 minutes or in it, whatever it is, and put it online, and it could be seen by everybody globally. Just let that one sink in. This was not possible 100 years ago, but literally your message can, in high definition, be shared around the world. How many of you explored the room today? Did any of you see the new technology that's under NDA in the room? Not me, not that. There's a hologram at the back of the room, a company called Musion. I've known of it for 5 years. I know what that does when optimally rolled out over 20 years, my weird Rain Man thing. Imagine if every person who inspires you was captured in a way that when you see them talking on stage, you have the same visceral reaction you are now. I'm not going to say I'm important, but the person next to you that you've had a conversation that moved you today or this week, your mother, your daughter, your father, these people, whether it's Mahatma Gandhi or your school teacher, captured in a way that can be resurrected in every way that viscerally affects us, is what's potentially possible today. This has been used. It was used in India recently, with literally Mahatma Gandhi's speeches being shown on stage with the man walking around. So different than watching an iPhone screen. Imagine if you, Martin, rather than being here, I'd love that you are here, I love physical human breaking bread, but you could have beamed onto my stage, or our stage, or Neslin's stage, from Australia. That is being done today. So when we talk about leadership academies, we're talking about several different things. A physical space, because a space is important, it's the context. I'm a bizarrely mixture of Western science, Tai Chi, and then academics. The ancient Greeks and Romans, and every other major culture, had arenas you'd come to. They'd have physical spaces where you'd come and meet and converse. The ways of Socratic dialogue, of inquiry, has been lost. The biggest thing I've got in my last 20 years, and I'm thankful in some way to strange people I bumped into my journey, is this thing of questioning. Because I got into the Western trap. Yes, you got 100% in that exam, you must know it all. No. But at the time you think you do. The biggest thing you get as you go through is you realize how much you don't know, but it lets you start to inquire into it. And then the bigger question, which you touched on with the sort of success measure, some of you, what's the point? Like literally, I have people that I can speak to indirectly who today are managing trillions of pounds of assets globally. Jerry's met them and Neslin has. They're not my money, they're these people that live in this world. They are managing trillions of assets. More zeros is not the answer. They're looking for people. They're looking for leaders. They're looking for people that actually can stand up and have the conversations and help shape our kids. I'm very thankful for having a young 7-year-old son who unfortunately doesn't live with me here in the UK. Again, some of the lack of leadership that was missing in my own childhood and their background and bits and pieces, but the past, the past. But the world that he can live into at 18, whether he's broke or a billionaire, doesn't matter if the world's messed up. And this is not some rant for socialism, I'm more of a capitalist socialist, pick a new word for it. But I am a believer in entrepreneurs. I am a believer in people waking up, not having to go take a job, having to go get up to handle the panic. And unfortunately, that needs leaders to stand for what's possible, to actually share what's possible, which we do with our quarterly showcases, and to start finding a way to create a safe environment inside which you can play full out and be able to really transparently show what's there. Leadership is not what it seems to be to most people. What was leadership before is not going to work where we're going to. And I don't think I'm going to be around when we get to that point in human history, but I swear and I know on everything that I've seen as a scientist, as an auditor, like I'm literally, every bit of my research that I've spent all my energy and time into for 20 years tells me we've hit a point where we're going is going to end up in one of three things. Either humanity jumps, we blow ourselves into a really weird place, or we kind of keep flying on the same circles. I'm a stand for this, for us elevating up, for having the ability for children to translate with each other and get past colour and skin and race. We haven't yet got a big danger, but we have. But we've got a time now where people can shape things. And I'll leave you, I guess, am I booking too long? Not enough? I don't know, my God. I'm okay. Okay, just checking. One of our friends and interesting characters talks a lot about asking questions. Do you know the impact of asking a question as a leader? Whether you're in charge or not. If you've got a room of 1,000 UN delegates and you say, by the way, who parked that BMW in the wrong space? They all think about it. Silly example of a question, right? But what questions could you ask? What questions, I don't like the word should, but should we ask? We say more optimal. Just starting to ask more and more optimal questions changes it. And for those of you that are old enough, like myself, we bought Betamax recorders and we bought pages and things. These were the future. There you go. You're going to find banking systems changing. You're going to find medical stuff shifting and changing. And the late Jim Rohn said that I think better than most. We're drowning in information, starving for wisdom and discernment. It's not a lack of data. I loved your thing. I have no interest in reading big papers on it. Give me the picture. I'm that guy, like, hence pictures. I like the one-pagers. What are the 3 steps I take right now? And if we can find a way to dance in the conversations, dance in leadership, we can create something really powerful for each other. But we have to have the freedom to fail. We have to have the freedom to actually be authentic in a way that doesn't blow ourselves up. Because these wonderful creations of Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn and social media and online branding are actually now, for me, the most destructive thing on the planet. I'm not saying get rid of them, but the world of the selfie and this virtual persona. How many of you would put a photo of yourself looking ugly on a, well, not that we're ever looking ugly, but that whole thinking. But we wouldn't. We put our best side forward. We don't go, I'm having a crappy day. Or if we do, people judge it. We haven't got a clean space to really communicate. And in the old world of villages, we had communities. And we're an advocate for creating small groups that create small groups that create small groups. Me talking with Neslin, if she helps 10 more people and she helps 10 more people and they help 10 more people, it shifts. And I really wish you get to meet my mum. She's around, she's just very shy, and unfortunately she's had the challenges that come with what's happened with her life. But we had a very interesting conversation up Tower Bridge less than 2 weeks ago. And we were talking about this aspect of impact. You know, she can know to some level, I've saved X number of lives. Like, this person in front of me has a heart attack, stops breathing, I do that, they get back okay. But having done that, what's the impact of that? Who's been rippled by those things? Who's been touched by the GP that you've trained? That's invisible. I hope, and I'm looking forward to being blown away by, at some point in 10 years, going, I saw you talk. That thing you said was really important. And I go, really? Did I? What? Okay, cool. Not just, I don't know. And it's gone for me, but for the other person, it sits and hangs. I met Gemma 2-3 years ago, longer now, I guess, when she was working with somebody that helps people get books published. And we started a conversation which has rippled to where it's got. There is a time coming when the people need to stand up and each individual has the choice to say who they're going to create their life for. What we've been trying to stand for a long time, people being free to make that choice. The biggest challenge, we think we're making free choices when we're not. I'm not Darren Brown yet, I so love him. But we think you're making a free choice. You don't. You didn't, any of you sit at the back of the room facing that way? No, you sat in the chairs where we put the chairs. Environment is stronger than willpower, Bucky said, Buckminster Fuller. And we're creating an environment or setting one up where people that choose to can step into. We want to create the centres, which each one will help mentor and train 100, then 1,000, then more leaders. And by doing that, we can make a decade that made the difference and really shift things. And at the same time, hopefully, have some more fun. Hopefully, it gives a sense of what the Duck's about. And there are some other things around. But I'm just very privileged that you're here. I want to thank you for being a leader. I'm going to jump to a slide down here because it's funny, because I did have that fun. I asked Jerry when it wasn't too silly. So just think about your point of view. thank you for your time and attention, leadership, and for helping shape the leaders of tomorrow today. I went through it quite quickly, but just 'cause I'm being silly. We all see things and think we know what's going to happen, right? We have the big picture. Not always. Neslin, thank you. And I'm looking forward to you. See, she's been hiding out. I found her sneakily. Didn't know who she was when I met her. She gave me £1 to my charity, I'll help. And I'm looking forward to more of these amazing leaders becoming more public, sharing who they are, because I didn't know how allowed to be this way, and by them hiding, I don't get to do it. So be you, share and be the leaders that you are, and let's see what happens, because it's up to you guys now. Thank you.
Thank you, Simon. Do you get a sense of how Simon occurs? As I said, he's one of the most intelligent and creative young persons that I have ever met.